Welcome back, viewers. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you are doing okay and life is treating you well. On this channel, before I talk about that, my name is Patrick Tawaya Matope, and on this channel, I talk anything to do with social work and related topics. In today's topic, I'm going to be talking to you about how organizations or how employers can deal or address concerns around bullying and how they can holistically address such issues in workplaces. Before I jump in today's topic, if you're a new subscriber or if you're new to this channel, please do subscribe, hit that notification bell so that when I post, you'll be the first person to know. And thank you so much if you're already a subscriber to the channel. Before I jump into these 10 strategies of how organizations can holistically address issues to do with bullying, I am just going to talk a little bit about the different forms, that bullying, takes, the different forms, how bullying takes place, in a workplace, so that I give clarity to, issues around bullying, really. Um, I'll need to put a disclaimer to say the information I'm sharing here is more to do with my own personal experience as well as, on my own, years of being a social worker, which I'm coming to 20 years now of practice, in 2024. So the few different forms, I'll talk about, 5 forms today. It's mostly to do with verbal bullying. We all know what verbal bullying is. It includes shouting, it includes swearing, it includes, making offensive remarks about a certain individual. It can also involve constant criticism on things that, other people are not being criticized of. But however, we need to be mindful that, if it is positive or constructive criticism to do with the quality of your work and stuff like that, that can be termed as bullying, because your line manager is just trying to get you to be a better person than possibly what you are already doing. um Verbal bullying can also include malicious rumors being spread within the team. That's part of verbal bullying. And then comes physical bullying, though this is rare to occur in many workplaces because that's a ground for immediate dismissal, but it does also happen. It usually involves even physical intimidation, even assault, sometimes physical assault. And then comes social and cyberbullying. This is really a modern form of bullying, but it is happening in workplaces, really. This involves excluding a particular person in terms of group activities, deliberately withholding information that may actually help them get promoted, or deliberately withholding information that may help that person professionally, or deliberately withholding information that can help them advance as a professional in their line of work, whereas your responsibility to make sure that they've got all that information for them to be able to perform at maximum level. So social bullying and cyberbullying, they can actually go hand in hand, because this is cyberbullying is where you use the internet, mostly use of email, social media, or other online platforms, to harass, threaten, or intimidate a particular individual, including humiliating them as well. um, then comes what we call power bullying, or work related bullying. These two go hand in hand, actually. It looks, you are talking of overloading a particular individual with work which is not necessarily the same expectations for the rest of the team. Possibly setting them up for failure, and possibly setting impossible deadlines. But we need to be treading carefully here, because sometimes sometimes you might misconstrue your line manager following up on tasks that you need to be doing as work related to power bullying, or power bullying, really, which is not necessarily the case. If you are being held to the same standards, that's not bullying at all. The manager is just trying to get you to do what you need to be doing, what you are being paid to be doing at the end of the day. But this is particularly um, seen in situations where the expectations towards one particular member of the team are not the same as compared to the other members of the team. Yeah. So yeah. So and it's more to do with the power dynamics between you as the line manager, or the subordinate, and the line manager who is holding power in that particular instance as well, where to an extent maybe the line manager is misusing their power. You can go and read much about this. Information is available on the internet for you to be able to dig much into this. But I'm just gonna jump straight into the 10 strategies of how workplaces can actually holistically deal with issues to do with bullying at workplace. Right. So the most important thing, or the point number one, is to establish clear anti-bullying policies within the workplace. This needs to be very clear and needs to be embedded in the current, policies which we have in the workplace, so that will enable people to identify what bullying is. People will know exactly what they need to be doing if they feel that they are experiencing bullying at workplace. Um, so it's something else to have those policies, but it's another thing for them to be enforced and for them to be followed through. So that's one thing that organizations can also do to make sure that bullying can be holistically addressed. So have the policies, make sure that they are being enforced, and they need to be as comprehensive as possible. And they also need to define what unacceptable behaviors are, what including actions that may need to be taken if these things are actually found to be, or are actually substantiated at the end of the day. Um, and you need to also ensure that when new employees are being inducted, they are made aware, or they are, sensitized to the existence of these policies, so that they're able to actually, use them when the time comes. Because sometimes when these kind of things do happen, people don't have any recourse, because they are not even aware that there are policies that they can actually, resort to, or they can actually, refer to. Point number two is also to make sure that there is constant training on diversity and inclusion within workplaces. That will help to sensitize people, even who would be bullies, to know that these kind of behaviors, or ABC kind of behaviors, are actually unacceptable. So this is also another way of making sure that you, as an organization, holistically deal with such matters, really. This needs to be held regularly, if possible, every quarter. Because remember, if it's done once a year, some people do join mid-year. Some people join beginning of the year. Some people join the organization end of the year. So if they are held quarterly, you are able to make sure that those people who are joining, they are actually able to be referred to be able to attend that kind of training. That's another way of how organizations can actually holistically deal with issues to do with bullying, because it's more to do with the preventive part, but also do with the how to actually deal with a situation that would have occurred, and also learning from the outcomes of that investigation, or from that incident that would have happened. So it's about those. It's about actually tying in all those three aspects, and that's how organizations can actually holistically deal with issues to do with bullying. So point number three is to make sure that there is safe reporting mechanism, including anonymous, reporting, because sometimes people do feel that when they make a report and it's not anonymized, it can actually come back to them. It depends with what it is that is there, but sometimes it may be a situation where a worker would want just to sensitize management about what's going on, but not necessarily wanting to be identified, or not necessarily wanting to be the person rocking the boat, so to speak, in courts. So it's important to make sure that there is safe reporting mechanisms, and when such things are actually reported, we actually put in place mechanisms of how we can protect both the person that is being accused and the person that is making an accusation, in terms of how they can, for example, be reassigned to different teams, or reassigned to different reporting manager, and reassigned to something like that, to make sure that because when an allegation is made, a person is innocent until their that allegation is substantiated. So it's important to also protect them in that space, and protect the person who would have made that particular report as well. So that's really, really important, to make sure that we've got safe reporting mechanisms in place, which are accessible and actually publicized to all employees who are joining the trust, or joining the the organization in the first few stages. And it's also important to promote open dialogue in practice forums, in various forums that people do attend on a quarterly basis, or any other forums, professional forums which people do attend, where these issues to do with bullying, including racism and stuff like that, can actually be discussed in that open forum, really. So it's really, really important. And then point number 5 is to make sure that there is mentorship programs, which would also, help to make sure that some employees actually, get switched on issues to do with bullying. And there is also what we call reverse mentorship, where in some organizations that I've worked in, it's possible for, a team manager to be paired up with the director, or an assistant director or somebody like that, to be able to do what we call reverse mentoring, because there's a lot that people can learn from somebody who is junior to you, and there's also a lot that somebody junior can also learn from somebody senior from them. So it's important to make sure that such mentorship programs are actually in place. And when they do such kind of pairing, it's also important to make sure that you pair people, depending from their ethnic background, so that there is maximum learning going on. There is a synergy of ideas being shared between those two people that would have been paired in what we call reverse mentorship programs. um it also takes the form of pairing junior staff members with experienced staff members, so that they can learn from those who have been with the organization for long, and also learn from how things are done within that organization. It's another quick and easy way of making sure that areas that may not necessarily have been covered within induction can also be covered in that platform. And it's easier for somebody to ask those kind of things in that kind of space, where they know that the person I'm asking is not necessarily my line manager, but they can actually get much information from that kind of space. So it's important to make sure that that is also in place. There is also a point about diverse hiring practices, making sure that the workforce that we have represents the service users that we are also supporting. It's important to make sure that organizations, to an extent, are as diverse as possible. I've seen organizations where the top to down approach is such that possibly down here there's lots of staff members from diverse backgrounds, but on top it's only from one ethnic background. That works to an extent, but in most cases I can see issues coming out from that, because it's rare for a organization with top management being from one ethnic background to understand issues to do with staff members who are mostly from diverse backgrounds as well. So it's important to make sure that when hiring, the organization is ensuring that there is diverse hiring practices. This is actively working to diversify the workforce, not only from the bottom but also bottom up approach, and making sure that there is fair and unbiased hiring practices, and also making sure that recruitment efforts reach a wide range of candidates, to make sure that you actually pull from a diverse pool of candidates that you're able to appoint within your organization. That will also help you deal with issues to do with workplace bullying and stuff like that. Another point is to make sure that the leadership in the organization are accountable. Like I mentioned earlier on, it's another thing to have policies in place, but if the leadership is not accountable to those policies, then it's as good as you don't have the policies, because people can report, but if nothing is being done when reports are made, then it's as good as those policies are non-existent. So it's important to make sure that the leadership is also accountable. Managers and leaders need to accommodate, need to foster an inclusive workplace at the end of the day, to make sure that when issues are raised, they're able to be dealt with. When issues are raised, they're actually efficiently and swiftly dealt with, and people actually get resolved from their issues. And there is learning to be obtained from those concerns that would have been raised, from those investigations that would have been held. And that learning is also cascaded down to all the staff members and to all individuals within that organization. That is really, really important. That's how leadership can be accountable when it comes to workplace bullying, really. The other important thing is to make sure that there is support networks in place, including allyship, where people can actually belong to a support network and be able to tap into the experience and the resources that are offered within that space. So that is really, really important as well. And it's also important to regularly assess workplace culture. And if there is an issue of people, if there is high attrition of staff members, we need to get to the bottom of what's really going on. And it's also important to even offer exit interviews. That's how you can regularly assess the workplace culture, by offering exit interviews. If people are leaving the organization, you need to understand why are people leaving the organization. Sometimes it's because people are scared to be reporting about these issues, but for them the only resolve is to be leaving that organization. We know it's easier to leave an organization when you are even a locum staff member as compared to a permanent worker. But if you see, sometimes permanent workers leaving in droves, there could be a thing that could be going on that people may not necessarily be aware of. And sometimes even the people causing such issues may not necessarily be aware that the way they are handling things is actually driving people out. So it's important to have that kind of feedback mechanism in place. And then that feedback mechanism is also taken into account when it comes to planning. And constructive feedback is given to those individuals that would have been pointed out in those exit interviews. And when you are that particular individual where issues are pointed out, it's good to reflect on your own practice. It's good for you to reflect on how you have been conducting yourself, and possibly make the necessary changes that are required to make sure that your organization actually prods on going forward in a positive manner. So it's important to also make sure that leadership is visible within the organization. If you've got visible leadership, it's easy for subordinates to be able to approach them. If they are approachable, it's easy for subordinates to be able to actually report issues to do with bullying, because where leadership is not visible, sometimes you join an organization, you hear that the director is so and so, but the people who are within that directorate don't even know who the director is. That person is not approachable. That person, they don't even know who they are. So it's not gonna be easy for people to maneuver themselves in terms of reporting some of these things, even though mechanisms can be in place. But sometimes when you're a visible manager, when you're an available manager, it's easier for people to actually relate to you, and it's easier for people to actually be able to open up and talk about how things are affecting them, or how things are impacting them within the organization. And the other important point is also to make sure that there is workplace options which are available for people to tap into, and for people to access, support. This includes, counseling and other support services that can be offered within that space. So it's important for people to be able to access that. You don't necessarily need the consent of your manager to refer yourself to the available workplace options which are there, to workplace, support services which are there. You can always self-refer if you feel that, something is going on which you need support with, and it could be within that space where you're actually appropriately supported to make, to actually report your situation. So you never know. You should be able to actually self-refer yourself. That is also very important. The other important thing is to make sure that there is transparency in promotion and evaluation process when it comes to the workplace evaluations options. These are transparent and done in a manner that people can actually get satisfied with at the end of the day as well. And the other important thing is to make sure that you celebrate diversity when it comes to important milestones to mark, or important celebratory months, like for example Black History Month, that you can celebrate, be visible within those periods as a leader within an organization, and making sure that you promote such kind of things actually to be celebrated and stuff like that. That will also help with cohesion within the organization, and making sure that people are focused and people remain committed to their work, and all that. So it's really important as well to make sure that. And the other important thing, which is the last point to talk about, is to make sure that the policies that are in place are constantly reviewed. In as much as people are making use of those policies, are reporting, and outcomes are actually, embedded, in everyday practice, and outcomes are actually, cascaded down to staff members. It's also important to make sure that if there are changes that needs to be made to those policies as a result of some of the outcomes from investigations done, then those policies needs to be reviewed. And with these points, I hope you have gained something from today's video. If you are new to the channel, please do subscribe. Hit that like bell, button, and hit that notification bell so that when I post again, you'll be the first person to know. And thank you so much for watching this video until the end. And I really appreciate your support. Thank you so much.